What's up guys, Mason the Brock Henderson here, and this video may be coming out a bit late whenever I'm finally able to upload it. I've been pretty busy over the past couple days. I did get to watch the game. I had to watch the replay, unfortunately, and even then I didn't get to do a review right after because I was actually in Alabama working a show, and today I had to work a show, and then now I've got to pack because I'm leaving for Ohio tomorrow with my family, so yeah, I don't know when this is going to get uploaded. Hopefully before the game against Everton in the weekend, but we'll see. But yeah, so we'll talk about this game really fast. Obviously, a lot of people look at the Carabao Cup. I like to call it the League Cup still. They look at this tournament and sort of say, oh, this doesn't really matter that much. But I think the important thing that a lot of people seem to miss whenever they talk about the League Cup is that one of the things that makes it so special is that it's a tournament that teams feel like, well, it's not like we have to win it. So it's a chance for some youngsters and some of the players that maybe don't get to play that much. They get a chance to impress. And I think that's the important thing about this tournament. If you don't have the League Cup, well, where are you going to play those youngsters? Where are you going to play those reserve players that are just there as backup? They're never going to get their chance. You're not going to play them in the FA Cup because that's too important. You're not going to play them in the league because you can't drop points there. So yeah, the League Cup is here not necessarily to be a cup to be won, one of the big ones to win, but it's a chance for some of these players to show and impress. And I think that's what's important going into this match because I could get really pissed off talking about some of the players, talking about some of what happened in the second half. But I think the big thing to take out of it is in a tournament like this is the only way that a player like Ampadu would have a chance to shine. And he did. That, in my opinion, that is the biggest takeaway that I had from this game. Ampadu looks like he's got the quality to really step into the team over the next couple years and really produce something. Because he's got that same sort of style that David Luiz has, but with a little bit of a slightly more mature edge, which is weird saying that about a 17-year-old compared to a 30-year-old. But, I mean, seriously, you look at the very first challenge he puts in the game. It was reckless. I didn't think it was worthy of a yellow card, especially not in the first minute of the game. It makes it even worse whenever, I can't remember who went in. Somebody on Bournemouth went into the same exact challenge. Oh, I think it was Smith later on in the game. He went into a challenge on Ampadu just like that one, catches him in our box, just cleans him out. And I'm like, that's the same challenge, and there's no card there? Really? So I think Lee Mason was a little bit card happy on our side. It took like a seriously blatant stopping of a counterattack before he finally carded a Bournemouth player. Or no, actually he carded one for Dissent. That was the first yellow card they got was Dissent. I'm like, really? After all the crunching challenges they put in? But yeah, I mean, we had like 3 or 4 cards and only one of them I thought was deserved. The Fabregas one that stopped the attack, that was the only one I'm like, okay, yeah, that's a yellow. But Ampadu's, I'm like, okay, yeah, it's a little bit reckless, but it's like first minute of the game, you're going to card somebody that early for a challenge that's just a little bit late. And then Zappacosta's, which was completely just Frazier buying a card there because he screamed like he just got murdered or something. But anyway, enough about the referee. But yeah, Ampadu, in my opinion, really showed his quality throughout the game. He had to make a lot of interceptions, a lot of blocks, a lot of tackles, and played the entire game literally, except for the very first minute, with a yellow card. And that is difficult to do as a defender because every single challenge you go into, you got to wonder, do I go into this challenge? Do I stand him up? Do I just let him pass? Because if you go into a challenge and wrongly time it, there's a good chance that the referee can be like, well, you know what? There's your second yellow. So the fact that he managed to play the rest of the game on a yellow card and didn't get a second yellow and managed to play well on top of it, in my opinion, it shows the class that he has. And it really makes me hope that we get to see a lot more of him as the season goes on. I don't expect him. Obviously, Christensen is just miles ahead of him right now as far as quality is concerned. But he's still, for somebody that's young and somebody that's just now starting to get chances in the first team, he's already showing that he's got some quality. So I'm excited to see, hopefully he does get to feature here and there throughout the rest of the season. I do see him as a backup right now. Do I see him as more of a backup than David Luiz? I'm not sure that I'm there yet. I'd say he's pretty close to David Luiz as far as being a backup. So once since David Luiz is still out right now, I don't mind seeing him come in as a replacement if Christensen needs a break. But I wouldn't quite say that I'd take him over David Luiz just yet, just because Luis does have a little bit more as far as the physical side of his game that Ampadu does. But I definitely see a bright future for him, and I hope he continues to feature in our team here and there, even if it's only just slight appearances in the league and then getting to play in the League Cup. But I definitely say for the rest of the tournament, as long as we're in it, I definitely say give him a chance to play. Next game against Arsenal, because Man City's bought all of FA because none of their players get suspended for anything that they do, and they get all of the easy teams in the. Okay, Leicester wasn't exactly easy, but I mean, you got Arsenal, Chelsea, Man City, and then Bristol City. Who's the one that gets Bristol City? Of course, Man City. So whatever. Anyway, let's talk about the rest of the individual performances. First of all, the lineup was pretty good. You got to see several players that have featured here and there, but haven't necessarily been the first team whenever we've got our 100% fully fit lineup. Caballero in goal did pretty well. I was a little bit disappointed with the goal. Obviously, it wasn't him that was at fault, but at the same time, I want to see a keeper really go all out if he's going to get beat. And he just kind of like fell to one side and had his arms like right here. He didn't really fully extend to get out there. So I don't know. I was a little bit disappointed with that. If you're going to get beat, make it look like it was a great shot. But as it was, with your arms right here, it's just like, well, could he have extended and maybe gotten a touch to it? But the rest of the game, he had to make some good saves here and there. They didn't really get a whole lot of shots on target, even though they were constantly threatening in the second half. So a lot of what he had to do was mainly just provide the drop. The one thing he definitely needs to work on is his kicks. I mean, just too many out of bounds, too many poor kicks that led to Bournemouth winning it back. To be fair, didn't really have a whole lot of help up top with winning the ball, but still, there were a couple really, really bad clearances from him that just went straight out of bounds or hardly went anywhere, didn't even cross the midfield. So definitely needs to work on that. In defense, Rudiger was the only other player that, besides Ampadu, that for the entire game I didn't have a problem with. Second half even, where most of the team was really starting to let down, Rudiger I thought played well even in that half. Just very solid, very strong, and does very well at covering for the back line. So yeah, I thought he played pretty well most of the night. Can't really think of any real mistakes. He does try that diagonal quite a bit, and it becomes easy to read. Whenever you see him start to line it up, if you're the defender on the other side, he's about to switch it, because he's getting a little bit predictable as far as that's concerned. But it's not necessarily a bad thing, because it still is a pretty dangerous ball to get it across. The defender either has to put it out of bounds, or if the person on that side, which in this case was Kennedy, who was doing a pretty good job of at least putting the defender under pressure, it could lead to a mistake, which could lead to a chance. So it is a dangerous ball, but just not. I hope he doesn't do it so much to where people just know, okay, that's what he's going to do. But defensively, he was very solid. Ampadu already talked about quite a bit. But yeah, in my opinion, he won man of the match, and it was thoroughly deserved. No other player out there played well the entire match aside from him, and Rudiger to an extent. So yeah, to get man of the match on one of your first starts as a 17-year-old, that's pretty impressive. Cahill on the other side, for most of the first half, looked pretty good. Did very well defensively, but then second half is where it started to, when Bournemouth started piling on the pressure, that's where he started to show he's not good enough to be your captain. But I've already talked to him, complained about that enough. Just as far as his game, though, the main things he's got to work on is just not getting beaten behind. He doesn't have the speed to keep up with anybody if they get in behind him. So the last thing he needs to be doing is stepping out and then getting 1-2'd. And he did that like 3 or 4 times in the second half. And I'm just like, stop. At some point you got to realize, okay, I don't have the speed, so step, but then as soon as they go to play it, that's when you back off and you're ready to go with them. Instead of, I'm going to try step and win it and then get turned and then I'm done. So yeah, I've got my frustration with Cahill. He wasn't as bad as I've seen him in some other games this season, so I'll give him that he had a good first half. Just second half the entire team started to let down, but he did as well. The wingbacks, Zappacosta on the right side, had some good moments in the first half, but then second half, whenever it was mainly Bournemouth coming at us, it showed that he doesn't have that defensive mindset. He's a very attacking wingback. And so whenever you've got a team that's just pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing and pushing, Zappacosta is not the wing back you want back there. He's just not that good at defending. He doesn't have that mindset of, oh, I need to get back and help. So yeah, that really hurt us. I thought, just not having that back there. Thankfully, Rudiger was doing well enough to where we didn't have to worry about it that much. But yeah, it is kind of concerning because we need a wing back that's going to be able to defend very well. And while Moses is able to do the work both sides, he's not really a good defender. And Alonso, has his weaknesses as well. Kennedy, on the other side, I thought played pretty well in the first half, but it was mainly from a working standpoint. His quality defensively isn't that great, but similar to Pedro, it's very quick and he sort of nips in and just keeps sort of clipping at you, trying to poke the ball away. And that can get pretty annoying, You got a player that's not necessarily like defending well, but it's just constantly like kicking the back of your heels and trying to poke the ball away and nip in, and they're very quick. That can be difficult to have to deal with. So I thought he did that well in first half, but second half definitely it felt a little bit more like he was getting a bit undisciplined with his challenges, and he was starting to go into challenges that he had no reason to be. And all of a sudden now there's somebody out wide that he should be covering, but now he's come inside to do something, whether it's mark a player or try to nip the ball away. And now all of a sudden there's so much space on the wings that he should be in a position to where if it does get switched out there, he can easily get to it. So yeah, his lack of discipline in the second half definitely hurt us on that left side. So both wingbacks, Zappacosta and Kennedy, they had their bright points. Zappacosta mainly on the attack in the first half, Kennedy mainly on his pressure in the first half. But second half, both of them really started to let us down because of their lack of discipline defensively. Into the middle, Fabregas and Drinkwater, not exactly the fastest, not exactly the strongest, not exactly the most defensive. So it's no wonder that second half they started to take it to us and really were successful with it. Because neither of them are really that great at defending or being strong in the midfield and really dominating the midfield. Fabregas, I've talked about before how the defensive side of his game is often underrated because he's very good at reading it, but most of the time he's doing that with Conte, who is trying to win the ball back, forces a mistake which Fabregas is there to read and then pick up. When there's not another midfielder in there that's really helping him because Drinkwater's on his side of the field doing whatever he's doing over there, that's not as effective for him. And you could see his second half, it was just all over him. On top of that, his passing wasn't great overall. Even in the first half, there were some passes that I'm just like, did he just give the ball away? It's not something that Fabregas normally does. So he seemed a little bit off on his passing, and then defensively, without somebody in there to sort of do the hard work and put pressure on the ball, his side of his game, the defensive side of his game really doesn't show as much. For Drinkwater, he played pretty hard, worked very hard, but just didn't really have the physical side of it to dominate the midfield like Conte or even Bakayoko can do. Bakayoko with the strength oftentimes can hold up the ball and hold players off. Conte, obviously, with his strength and speed can do that. Drinkwater just doesn't have that same type of physical nature, so yeah, it definitely showed in the second half where there were 2 or 3 players running all over him and he just didn't have the ability to hold them off or help our defense out at all. So I think that was probably the worst decision that Conte made as far as the lineup is concerned, is just having those two in the midfield. I'd say you got to either have Bakayoko or Conte in there because one of those two is going to be your hard-working defensive player. Or even, push Ampadu in there. He can do that job pretty well too. So, yeah, I just thought it was a strange decision to go with Fabregas and Drinkwater, both of which are more passing and not necessarily very strong defensively. But Fabregas did work hard, even though he's playing pretty poor. Drinkwater worked hard most of the night, so I can't complain about their play. Just the style of their play didn't really fit with what we needed, and that's why second half we started to get dominated. Up front, the front three all had moments. Willian, obviously, with the goal was really well done, and on top of that, he worked hard for most of the night. And in fact, if he had played more, he probably would have gotten man of the match for me over Ampadu. But because he got taken out so early, that's why for me Ampadu gets man of the match. But yeah, he worked really, really hard, did very well. tried everything he could to sort of help us out in the second half, but he didn't have the help around him. Pedro, first half, pretty good, had some good moments, and then started dropping off, and then second half, worthless. Didn't help us on the ball. He kept giving it away, making runs that didn't help us, got called off sides. Just no help from him at all. And then Batshuayi, first half, made some good runs, had some good chances, and second half disappeared. So, yeah, of the three, Willian was the only one that really stayed consistent, but then got taken off in the 60th minute. Pedro and Batman just sort of faded out of the game entirely by the second half. And so that's what really hurt us the most, I think, is just the fact that we didn't have an outlet up there to go to. Anytime we tried to go to Batman, he lost it. Anytime we tried to go to Pedro, he played it away and missed his pass, or didn't read the right pass and then gave it away. And so we just kept giving away possession up there, and they just were able to come right back at us every single time. So, yeah, that's pretty much what hurt us the most in the second half, were those two. Just not really up to what they should be doing. So, pretty disappointed with them on the whole of it. Hazard and Bakayoko came on for Willian and Pedro. Hazard, once he started getting going, that's when we started to look a bit more dangerous later on. It's just disappointing that we had to give up a goal, because honestly, that's when we really started to look more dangerous and actually started to hold the ball up a bit more. But even then, you could tell he didn't really have the help around him, because he picks up the ball and he's looking for help, and the midfielder are pretty slow to get out. He's looking for the wingback. Zappacosta's drained, so he's not getting up as much, and Kennedy is on, I don't really know what happened to Kennedy in the second half, to be honest. He just sort of faded away almost. He had like a few touches on the ball that I can remember. The rest of them just felt like he was just sort of there, played the ball, and then that was it. But Hazard definitely tried to change the game. Bakayoko tried to use his strength, but I don't know. He just didn't come in and dominate the midfield like I was hoping he was going to. He just sort of came in and had like one good moment where he used his strength well, but then after that, it was like they just started passing around him, and he was like a brick wall just standing there. And then Murata came on, and obviously he got the goal to win it, but he was also the one that gave them the equalizing goal, because, for somebody who's normally been very, very good at heading, what was that? And you guys know exactly what I'm talking about, because I'm sure I'm not the only one that thought, oh my gosh, did he really just do that? Ball comes in, and he just like flicks it down right to Ibe's feet. Or maybe it was Mousset, I don't remember who it was. But just like, head it away, head it back out for a throw-in, head it out for a corner. But no, he's just like, here you go, I'm going to flick it right to your feet, right there. And so he just lays it off, and Gosling's just like, oh, well, piece of cake, and bends it into the corner. And I'm just like, really, Murata? And honestly, he had another poor headed clearance after we scored the goal, I think. Or maybe it was before we scored the goal. I don't know. No, wait, there was only 14 seconds in between that. And I'm pretty sure it was after we scored the goal. There was like a throw-in that came in, and he headed it, and it was not a great headed clearance. It was barely out of the top of the box. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I thought Murata was supposed to be great at heading the ball, and now he's just like barely getting it out of our box for some reason. Like, what's up with that? So yeah, that was bizarre from him. Obviously, the goal was very nice. Nice little flick to Hazard, who did well to backheel it. Both of our goals, both backheel for the assist. No, part of the assist for the first one. Kennedy backheeled to Fabregas, who cut it back to Willian. But Hazard backheeling it to Murata, who then just flicks it sort of up under Boric. Yeah, they were both nice goals. But it's the problem with it is I'm just frustrated with our second half performance overall. If not for the fact that Ampadu showed out and showed what he's capable of, I would look at this game and be like, what happened, guys? Yes, it's mostly our second team for the most part, but it's still kind of like, what happened second half? Why'd you guys drop off? Batman, Pedro, what happened to you guys? Zappacosta, what happened to you second half? It was weird in the second half, but like I said, there are some positives to take. Ampadu did play very well, and he showed that he's got the capability of stepping in if we need him to, which, with all these games about to be coming up back to back to back to back, we may need him to. We may need somebody like Ampadu to step up. And it's cases like that where it starts to get fans excited. You look at some of these other top teams, and what are they excited about? Oh, Man City, they've got Phil Foden. Arsenal, who do they have? Well, their big one for a while was, what's his name? Maitland-Niles, I think? Is that the one they were talking about a lot? Or maybe it was Iwobi, I don't know. Obviously, Rashford stepped up big time at Man U, and they're still excited about him, even though he hasn't really grown much over the past couple years. Harry Kane stepped up as a youngster, and now look at where he is. Sterling stepped up big time for Liverpool, and now he's at Man City and doing well there. So players that are young, whenever they start to step up, whenever they start to show what they're capable of, and even the possibility of starting to break into the first team, that's where fans really start to get excited. And I don't feel like we've had that for a long time. When Hazard came in when he was young and all of a sudden started tearing it up, it was like great, but that wasn't like an academy product, and he wasn't a teenager. He was 21 or 22 at the time. So it's kind of like, yes, it's exciting. Even Christensen right now, he's 20, 22, 21, something like that. It's like great he's stepping up, and he's really good, and he's younger, but it's not like a teenager coming in. It's like, holy crap, teenager tearing it up in the Premier League of all places. We don't really have that. So the fact that we finally have something like that with Ampadu, and he's finally starting to break in, it's pretty exciting. But I guess the last thing to talk about is just the disappointment that we did have some talented youngsters on the bench, and because we couldn't put the game away, because we didn't make our chances count in the first half, and then the second half we dropped off and let them come back into it. It's kind of sad because, Hudson-Odoi was on the bench, and I want to see him play. I saw some good quality performances from him in the was that U20 or U17? I think it was U17 World Cup, or maybe it was U19. I don't know. But yeah, watching him play for England at the younger ages, looked very good. He was, people were talking a lot about Phil Foden, obviously. Well, Hudson-Odoi was also the one that was sort of getting mentioned quite a bit because of his quality performances. Sterling was on the bench, and honestly, he looks like he might be a good player to step in. We do need some defensive wingbacks, and Sterling's been one that has, he's played the wingback position quite a bit, so I'd like to see him get a chance. Clark Salter's on the bench, and I've seen nothing but quality performances from him whenever he's gotten chances in preseason. So, yeah, I'd like to see some of these youngsters get their chance, and it's unfortunate that we can't put the game away and let them get the chance that they probably deserve. But anyway, that's it for me, so let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What were your thoughts on this match? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Chelsea reviews, and hopefully this will be up before the Everton review or game, and if it is, then I will see you guys there. Peace out.